Welcome to our video. Have you ever wondered what really happens when you simply disappear from someone's life? What emotions, reflections, and changes does that absence trigger? Today, we're going to explore this impact and discover how Stoic philosophy can offer valuable insights to understand what emerges in others, and even in ourselves, when we decide to step away. In a society that's more connected than ever, disappearances and distances may seem uncommon, yet they happen. And often they lead to intense, profound feelings that we may not fully understand. In this video, we'll cover 9 emotions that your withdrawal can provoke in those who remain. But that's not all. With each of these reactions, we'll bring in Stoic teachings to show you how to handle these emotions consciously and healthily. This isn't about creating guilt or justifying distancing. Rather, it's about understanding the impact of our actions and finding a balance between self-care and emotional responsibility. So, if you're curious to learn how your choice to step away affects those around you and how these emotions connect to detachment and acceptance, stay with us. By the end of this video, you'll gain a new perspective on what it means to be absent and learn how to approach this decision more mindfully. Sometimes we feel an almost inexplicable need to step away, to disappear temporarily or even permanently from someone's life. But what really drives us to make that choice? Distancing can seem like a drastic reaction, but often it's an attempt at self-care, an act of emotional preservation, or a way to regain balance. When daily life or a relationship becomes emotionally intense or overly demanding, the need may arise for a pause to reflect on our limits, restore focus, and find peace once again. This is where Stoicism offers a different perspective on disappearance. In Stoic philosophy, detachment and acceptance of what we cannot control are essential for inner calm. According to the Stoics, we should avoid becoming overly dependent on situations, people, or emotions, as this makes us vulnerable to suffering and anxiety. Thus, for those who seek peace and self-control, distancing can be a means to avoid dependence or external distractions. In fact, Stoicism not only tolerates, but even encourages distancing in certain moments, as long as this choice is made with awareness of its effects on those around us. The key, then, is to know how to practice detachment responsibly. According to Stoicism, distancing should be accompanied by respect and consideration for those who remain. It should never be a form of punishment or an act of revenge, but rather an essential step to maintain our internal balance. This principle reminds us that while we may have a desire for self-care, we should always consider the emotional impact we cause on others when making this choice. Thus, understanding the deeper reasons behind distancing and practicing conscious detachment not only strengthens our inner peace, but also helps build more sincere and respectful relationships. Stoicism teaches us that being transparent with ourselves about our needs makes us more integrated and secure in our decisions, and less prone to causing unnecessary emotional harm to those around us. This forms the foundation for exploring the 9 reactions your disappearance can provoke in others, and how these can be viewed from a Stoic and constructive perspective. When someone disappears without giving any explanation, the first reaction from those left behind is often confusion. This feeling arises because a sudden absence disrupts the expectation of continuity and creates a void that, without explanations, is difficult to fill. In any relationship, even casual ones, we form narratives about what the other person represents to us and what we represent to them. A disappearance suddenly challenges these narratives, leaving behind a gap of uncertainty and an inevitable question. Why did they disappear? Stoic philosophy invites us to approach confusion differently, encouraging us to accept life's unpredictability and our lack of control over others' actions. For the Stoics, confusion and uncertainty are actually opportunities to practice detachment. Rather than seeking answers that may never come, Stoicism teaches us to accept what is beyond our control and to refocus on what we can control, our own reactions and thoughts. So, when faced with the confusion caused by someone's disappearance, the Stoics suggest self-analysis. They encourage us to ask ourselves why this absence is so unsettling and what it reveals about our expectations and needs. Instead of being trapped in assumptions or hasty conclusions, we can use this moment to examine our emotions and reflect on our attachment to the answers we desire. By doing so, we transform confusion into an opportunity for self-discovery. For those who choose to step away, it's essential to understand that the confusion triggered by your absence is natural and human. Acknowledging this can be the first step toward practicing conscious distancing, respecting the feelings of those who stay, and if possible, providing some context or explanation to minimize the impact. If distancing is necessary, Stoicism reminds us that while we have the right to our own space, we should also recognize and respect others' experiences. Thus, confusion, while uncomfortable, can become a window for emotional growth. And by understanding this reaction, we take the first step toward grasping the other emotions that emerge when someone simply disappears. Immediately following confusion, it's common for insecurity to settle in those left behind. When someone disappears, an inevitable doubt about one's own worth and role in the relationship emerges. Did I do something wrong? Am I the problem? This insecurity arises from uncertainty and a lack of answers, quickly turning into a cycle of self-criticism and personal questioning. In situations of distancing, many people internalize what happened and start to automatically assume responsibility for it. Stoicism, with its focus on self-control and rational analysis of situations, offers an alternative approach to this insecurity. According to the Stoics, it's crucial to remember that others' actions are reflections of their personal choices and limits, not necessarily of something we did or failed to do. Rather than clinging to assumptions about what we might have done to prevent the distancing, Stoicism guides us to focus on what is truly within our control, our own self-image, and how we choose to react to the situation. To cope with insecurity, Stoics recommend practicing objectivity and self-compassion. When someone disappears, it's essential to separate facts from personal judgments and avoid self-critical conclusions that undermine self-esteem. Ask yourself, am I judging myself based on facts or on assumptions about how the other person feels? This Stoic practice helps us face insecurity with a neutral perspective and understand that the other's absence may relate more to their own journey than to any failure of ours. On the other hand, for those who choose to step away, recognizing that your absence may cause insecurity in those who remain is crucial. This acknowledgement makes it possible to practice more responsible and respectful distancing as we remember the emotional impact this decision can generate. Offering a brief explanation can help ease insecurity and doubts, strengthening relationships and fostering mutual respect, even in absence. Overcoming insecurity is a process, and Stoicism reminds us that our worth does not depend on others' choices. Thus, by confronting this reaction, we begin to build a stronger emotional foundation and pave the way toward true emotional independence. The departure of someone dear often triggers a deep, intense fear of loss. When someone disappears, those left behind frequently wonder whether this is the definitive end of the relationship, be it a friendship, romance, or even family bond. This fear often stems from the sense that losing someone represents an irreversible rupture, a situation in which something important is taken from our lives, leaving behind a void that's hard to fill. Stoicism offers a powerful perspective for dealing with the fear of loss. Stoic philosophy teaches that rather than resisting the inevitable, we should accept that everything is temporary and that nothing, not even the strongest connections, is under our total control. By practicing the principle of impermanence, the Stoics invite us to accept that people, experiences, and relationships are transient, and as painful as this may be, such acceptance is liberating. When we accept the transitory nature of bonds, we learn to value what we have in the present and to suffer less from future uncertainties. To confront the fear of loss, Stoicism encourages us to stay focused on the present and cultivate gratitude for shared memories and experiences. Instead of clinging to the anxiety of a possible rupture, we can concentrate on how the relationship transformed us and the value it added to our lives. This perspective doesn't erase the fear, but helps us not be overwhelmed by it, promoting a more balanced and peaceful approach to uncertainty. For those who choose to step away, it's important to recognize that this decision may provoke fear of loss in those who remain. This understanding helps us approach distancing with empathy, either by offering an explanation that reduces the fear, or by demonstrating that the separation doesn't invalidate what the relationship meant. When we recognize the impact of our decisions, we practice detachment more consciously and respectfully, making the transition smoother for everyone involved. Thus, by accepting that the fear of loss is part of the distancing process and that it's an opportunity to strengthen our emotional resilience, we become more capable of facing the pain of separation and moving forward with more serenity and less anxiety about the future. After the initial shock of separation and the feelings of confusion, insecurity, and fear of loss, many people begin to develop resilience. This reaction represents a turning point. Instead of focusing on the absence and the whys that the disappearance raises, people start seeking strength to move forward. Resilience is a natural human response, an ability to adapt and overcome adversity, and often the absence of someone becomes an opportunity to develop an unexpected inner strength. In Stoicism, resilience is a core value. Stoics believe that pain and challenges are inevitable, but how we choose to react to them is within our control. This philosophy suggests that instead of resisting suffering, we should see it as a chance for growth. In the midst of absence-induced pain, Stoicism encourages us to build a firm stance and develop emotional self-control. This approach transforms separation into fertile ground for inner strengthening, showing us that we can overcome difficulties without relying on another person's presence. To practice resilience, the Stoics suggest activities like daily reflection on events and cultivating emotional self-sufficiency. By reflecting on the impact of the separation, not with resentment, but with a willingness to learn and grow, we transform pain into fuel for our maturation. This process teaches us that pain is not an insurmountable obstacle, but a transitory phase that makes us stronger. Those who decide to step away may not imagine that their absence triggers this strength in those who remain. Recognizing this allows us to view separation not merely as a loss, but as a learning opportunity for both parties. When we understand that resilience flourishes in difficult moments, we appreciate the importance of moving forward with empathy and respect, knowing that by stepping away, we enable others to find their own strength. Thus, resilience becomes a powerful ally in dealing with the impact of disappearance, and more than that, it becomes an essential life skill that strengthens our confidence and independence in any situation life may bring. As we cope with someone's absence, resentment can emerge as an inevitable reaction. The feeling of abandonment, of having been left without explanation or justification, can generate hurt and anger, transforming absence into an emotional weight that's difficult to bear. When we feel the separation was unfair, our feelings were disregarded, or our bonds broken without consideration, resentment tends to grow, leading us to interpret the disappearance as a sign of disrespect or devaluation. Stoicism offers a powerful approach to handling resentment, teaching us to turn this reaction into an opportunity for self-mastery and understanding. To the Stoics, resentment is a way of clinging to past events over which we no longer have control, a posture that inevitably causes suffering. Instead of sinking into this feeling, Stoicism invites us to practice emotional detachment, releasing the burden of blaming others for what has already happened and focusing on the present, where we truly have power to act. Forgiveness is central here, not as passive acceptance, but as an active choice to not carry the emotional burden that resentment imposes. To Stoics, forgiveness doesn't need to be a verbal act, but can be an internal decision of liberation. By forgiving, we choose not to let others' actions control our peace of mind. This allows us to move forward more lightly, preserving our energy for what truly matters. For those who choose to step away, recognizing that your disappearance may cause resentment in others is key to acting with more sensitivity. A clear explanation, a thoughtful farewell, or a word of understanding can reduce this feeling's weight on the other, making the distancing more humane and less painful. Respecting the other reflects emotional maturity and prevents the relationship from ending with unnecessary bitterness. Thus, Stoicism shows us that resentment is an opportunity to practice detachment and acceptance. By choosing to let go of this feeling, we leave behind the weight of the past and open up space for peace and harmony, allowing the emotional cycle to continue without trapping us in suffering. When someone disappears, it's common for those left behind to go through a deep process of reflection. The sudden distancing leads them to question their own behavior, the attitudes they held, and the role they played in the relationship. This self-reflection can be a path to self-knowledge, as it forces us to look within and evaluate honestly what might have contributed to the breakup or the other's decision to step away. Stoicism values the practice of constant reflection, encouraging us to analyze our actions and motivations objectively. According to the Stoics, we must have the courage to face our own faults without becoming imprisoned by them. Reflection for the Stoics should not be punitive self-criticism, but rather a learning exercise. Looking back with humility and a willingness to understand allows us to evolve without becoming stuck in the past. The idea is that each experience is an opportunity for adjustment and improvement, another step toward self-mastery. For those experiencing separation, this reflection may be painful, but transformative, asking, "Where did I go wrong?" and identifying areas for improvement helps build a stronger foundation for future relationships and avoid repeating harmful patterns. This makes us more aware of the impact we have on others and helps us cultivate more sensitive and empathetic behavior. On the other hand, for those who choose to step away, it's important to realize that your absence may trigger this introspective analysis in others. Understanding that the other person may be going through a profound self-examination is an opportunity to practice respectful and sensitive distancing. In some cases, a brief, constructive farewell or honest feedback can support this reflection constructively, offering insights that help the other person learn and grow from the experience. Sincere reflection, when conducted stoically, allows us to abandon guilt and move forward with learning and gratitude. It transforms separation into a valuable lesson and enables us to deal better with ourselves and others in the relationships we form throughout life. When someone's absence becomes prolonged, many begin to question the need for emotional dependency on others for happiness. This separation can spark a desire for independence, a drive to seek self-satisfaction and self-sufficiency. The question, "Can I be happy alone?" starts to emerge, and those left behind begin considering that true happiness may lie less in external bonds and more in the ability to feel complete within themselves. To Stoicism, Emotional independence is one of the fundamental pillars for a balanced life. Stoics believe that true peace of mind comes from self-sufficiency, from not relying exclusively on external factors, whether people, circumstances, or possessions, to find fulfillment. Understanding that the source of happiness is internal and within our control frees us from the need to rely on others to bring us happiness. This teaching is especially relevant when we face the separation of someone important, as it gives us an opportunity to strengthen ourselves through self-sufficiency. To cultivate this independence, Stoicism suggests practices such as daily gratitude for what we already have and appreciating the present moment. When we choose to see our lives as complete in themselves, we accept that no one has the responsibility to fill our voids or solve our problems. The other's absence then becomes an opportunity for self-exploration and growth, where we learn to meet our own emotional needs and find meaning in our own company. For those who choose to step away, it's important to know that your absence can inspire the development of independence in those who remain. This separation, while initially painful, can be seen as a chance for both to explore new levels of emotional autonomy. Practicing detachment with responsibility means respecting the other's right to grow independently while acknowledging the importance of our own independence. Thus, Stoicism teaches us that being happy alone doesn't mean distancing ourselves from everyone, but rather learning to find value and peace within ourselves. By strengthening this emotional independence, we become better prepared to build healthy, less dependent relationships, ones where the other's presence is valued, but our happiness doesn't depend on it. The departure of someone close can easily trigger feelings of guilt in those left behind, leading to painful introspection. Am I the reason they disappeared? This reaction is common, especially when there is no clear explanation for the distancing. Many people tend to assume responsibility for the separation, believing that somehow their actions or words were the reason for the distancing. Guilt can become a burden, generating severe self-criticism and even distorting self-image and dignity. Stoicism provides a way to deal with guilt more constructively. The Stoics teach that we should only take responsibility for what is genuinely within our control, that is, our thoughts and direct actions. When something is beyond our control, such as another person's decision to step away, Stoicism suggests that we accept this reality without overburdening ourselves with responsibility that doesn't belong to us. This approach helps distinguish between what we can and cannot change, allowing us to handle guilt more rationally and with greater balance. To face guilt in a healthy way, the Stoics recommend honest self-evaluation and acceptance of our imperfections. Ask yourself, did this situation really happen because of me, or am I carrying an unnecessary weight? This reflection can help relieve the emotional burden and focus on growth instead of being stuck in a cycle of self-criticism. The idea is to learn from the situation but not remain attached to the past, avoiding guilt from stalling emotional progress. For those who choose to step away, recognizing that your absence may provoke guilt in the other is a way to show empathy and emotional responsibility. If possible, a brief explanation of the reasons behind the separation can help relieve the guilt of those who remain, making the process less painful. This consideration not only demonstrates respect, but also allows both parties to part in a more harmonious and emotionally lighter way. Thus, Stoicism reminds us that guilt should only be carried when it is constructive, not when it becomes a paralyzing burden. Releasing unnecessary guilt is an essential step to move forward with clarity and peace, focusing on what can truly be improved from now on. With time and understanding of the emotions that arise during the distancing process, we eventually reach the final stage, acceptance. At this point, those left behind begin to accept the absence as part of reality. understanding that life goes on. This moment signifies that although the initial void may still exist, it no longer carries the same weight as the person begins to adapt to the new reality and move forward. Acceptance is not the absence of pain, but rather the ability to live peacefully with it. In Stoicism, acceptance is regarded as one of the highest states of wisdom. The Stoics teach that accepting reality without resistance or attachment to what we cannot change is essential to living peacefully. This principle encourages us to let go of the suffering created by struggling against what has already happened and to focus on adapting and growing. Accepting someone's absence is not giving up on what that person meant, but rather understanding that everything in life is temporary and that this transience is natural and necessary. To practice acceptance, Stoicism suggests exercises of gratitude and meditation on impermanence. Remembering good moments and being grateful for what was lived makes the acceptance process lighter and less painful. This is the time to transform longing into positive memory, to honor the relationship for what it brought, and to embrace the new phase with serenity. Accepting absence is often the key to finally ending the cycle of pain. For those who choose to step away, recognizing the importance of acceptance is essential. Acting with responsibility and compassion when distancing facilitates the acceptance process for those who remain. Showing respect for the bond that existed and allowing a proper farewell helps the person move forward with less suffering, allowing the cycle to close with dignity. Acceptance teaches us that life follows its course, with or without certain people. Viewing the end of a bond as a natural part of life's flow frees us to live more fully, in peace with what has passed and open to what is yet to come. Here we end the cycle of reactions to distancing and approach the true serenity that Stoicism teaches. To deal with separation and detachment healthily, Stoicism suggests daily practices that help develop the calm and emotional balance needed to face life's changes more serenely. One of the main Stoic practices is daily reflection, which involves looking objectively at the day's events, reviewing attitudes, reactions, and emotions, and identifying where progress was made or where there is still room for improvement. This constant exercise allows us to move forward consciously and with clarity of purpose. Another essential practice in Stoicism is the exercise of death, or memento mori. Reflecting on the temporary nature of everything, including relationships and bonds, helps us value the present and cultivate deeper acceptance of inevitable changes. This practice reminds us that everything has a cycle, and that by understanding life's impermanence, we become less emotionally dependent and more open to accepting what lies beyond our control. Stoic meditation is also useful for dealing with detachment and separation. Unlike traditional meditation, the focus here is on observing one's thoughts without judgment. Observing our own thoughts neutrally helps develop a more balanced and less reactive mind. Thus, when we face someone's absence, we can manage emotions more serenely and in control without letting the pain of absence overwhelm us. For those who choose to step away, these Stoic practices offer a framework to maintain calm and clarity during the process, avoiding the impulse to act reactively or impulsively. Conscious detachment and respect for the other are expressions of emotional maturity, and Stoicism provides us with the tools to approach this process with responsibility and serenity. Thus, with Stoicism, we learn not only to accept the separation from those who have left, but also to cultivate inner peace that enables us to face any change with steadiness and serenity. This is the true power of Stoic detachment, living in the present, respecting the past, and moving forward with balance. Understanding reactions to separation and applying Stoicism helps us build more conscious and healthy relationships while strengthening our emotional resilience. I hope this video has brought you valuable insights about the impact of absences and the value of detachment. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that explores self-knowledge and personal growth. In silence we learn, in wisdom we grow.